Today we're going to be discussing one of the strangest disappearances that I've ever seen in my life. And you will feel the same after watching the surveillance video. But don't just take my word for it. Ever since this disappearance happened back in 2014, the internet has been buzzing about all kinds of theories as to what really happened. This case is about a young man who disappeared in Eastern Europe under mysterious circumstances. On June 30th, 2014, 28-year-old Lars Mittank traveled with his friends to Varna, Bulgaria, a popular seaside tourist town on Bulgaria's Black Sea coastline. He and his friends were staying at the Golden Sands, a popular seaside resort just outside the city of Varna. Few days later, Lars and his friends spent time in a bar watching a football match between two German teams. It was during this time that Lars got into a heated argument with other Germans in regard to whose team is better. Lars, who was from Berlin, was a fan of Werder Bremen, while the people he got into an argument were fans of Bayern Munich. After the match, Lars left his friends, exited the bar, and disappeared for the rest of the night. The following morning, Lars showed up to the resort where his friends were staying and shared with them distressing news. He told them that he had been beaten up by several local men who were hired by the Germans at the bar with whom he had a heated argument the previous evening. As a result, Lars had a fractured jaw and a ruptured eardrum. Soon after, Lars saw a doctor who told him that he shouldn't fly due to the damage in his eardrum. According to the doctor, flying would just exacerbate the situation even further. The doctor did prescribe him antibiotic cefprozil 500 mg. He and his friends were scheduled to fly out back to Germany shortly, but because of his ruptured eardrum, Lars heeded the advice of the doctor and decided to fly home at a later date. His friends protested at the thought of leaving him alone in a foreign country and offered to stay with him as well. But Lars refused and told his friends to fly home and that he would be perfectly fine and would get back to Germany at a later date. After his friends flew back home to Germany, Lars checked out of the resort and checked into the hotel Color Varna. However, a day after his friends had left, his behavior changed and he began to act strange and cold. His erratic behavior was captured by the hotel's surveillance cameras. He only had spent one night at the hotel, during which he appeared paranoid and frightened. While he was staying at the hotel, he called his mother and told her that 4 men were coming to kill him and that she should cancel all his credit cards. Few days later, Lars showed up at the Varna Airport on his way to board his returning flight to Germany. Before checking in, he consulted with an airport doctor about his health. The airport was undergoing refurbishment, and during Mittank's consultation, a construction worker entered the office. He then proceeded to tell the doctor something in Bulgarian. At that point, Lars suddenly got up, ran out of the doctor's office, and exited the airport. Mittank was overheard saying, "I don't want to die here. I have to get out of here," before getting up to leave. After dropping his belongings on the floor, he ran down the hall. Outside the airport, he climbed over a fence, and once on the other side, he disappeared into a nearby forest and was never seen again. He left behind his cell phone, wallet, and passport. He was captured by security cameras leaving the airport, crossing the nearby road, and then climbing over a fence leading into an open field of sunflowers near the Bulgarian Highway A2. That was the last sighting of Lars Mittank. Now let's discuss some of the scenarios that might explain this super bizarre disappearance. Scenario number 1. Lars really had some people after him as a result of that argument or something else that he might have done. These could have been regular people or even perhaps organized crime. Scenario number 2. Lars became hallucinogenic after consuming the pills that the doctor prescribed to him. Although the pills Lars was prescribed are normally prescribed in such a situation, Lars could have had a pre-existing psychological condition that had been exacerbated by these pills or by something else that we don't know about. As a result, Lars started to imagine that people were following him and wanted to do him harm. Scenario number 3. Lars wanted to disappear and start a new life. While a lot of people certainly don't consider this scenario, in this case his friends and family rejected this theory, it does happen that people just want to start fresh and anew. Perhaps this was Lars' chance to start with a blank slate and build a new life in a new country and city. These are the 3 scenarios I envision could be at play here. If you know any other ones, please let me know in the comments below. Now let's discuss how likely each one of these scenarios is closer to reality and what could have really happened on that fateful summer day in 2014. When discussing whether he had people or even the mafia after him, my thoughts are mixed on this. As someone who is familiar with Eastern Europe, the chances of organized crime getting involved in something so petty is remote, to say the least. The second scenario, where Lars could have become hallucinogenic as a result of taking the prescribed pills or something else, does sound plausible in my mind. Maybe he really felt there were people after him, and that definitely explains why he ran out of the airport at such a high speed. I know if I felt that some people were after me and I felt that I was trapped, I would certainly run out of any confined spaces such as the airport as fast as I could. That, combined with the fact that he was in Bulgaria, an Eastern European country where corruption is, shall we say, higher than in other countries, certainly explains his distrust in regard to figures of authority such as police, doctors, and even immigration officers. The third scenario might be plausible as well. Maybe Lars was fed up with his life back in Germany and wanted to start a new life in Bulgaria, or merely use Bulgaria as a springboard for other countries. Although I do remain skeptical, because it certainly doesn't explain why he'd need to run out of the airport like a bullet. He could have calmly walked out of the airport and caught a taxi or a bus to his destination. Moreover, he didn't really need to go to the airport if he wanted to start a new life in the first place. Now, before we close out this video, I wanted to share with you 2 recent sightings of Lars that give his family and friends hope that he is still alive somewhere out there. The first sighting happened in 2019 when a truck driver picked up a random hitchhiker in Dresden, Germany, and took him all the way to Schildow, a city just north of Berlin, Lars' hometown. The trucker said that the man looked like an older version of Lars. The second sighting happened in South America. Although the man resembled Lars, it turned out that this individual was from the United States and had disappeared himself when he walked all the way from the US to Colombia. And just recently, on Sunday, July the 19th, 2020, Varna Mittank, Lars' mother, received a photo of a young and homeless man who was sighted taking a bath in the Rhine River in Düsseldorf, a city in western Germany. 2 hours later, it was confirmed that it was not her son. In any case, this case is still unsolved after more than 7 years, so my guess as to what really happened is as good as yours. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please drop a like and subscribe to the channel for future episodes. Take care, and I'll see you in a future video.